So through that process, one of the Buehler, there's a fourth generation of Buehlers. Right now we're in generation 3. It's the Buehler son. There was 2 dads who their 5 sons and 1 son-in-law is involved in our business. And now the generation 4 is starting to come into it. There's some gentlemen that are involved in the business, and one of them came to us and said, I want to be involved in sustainability. I think I have a good idea, I want to try it out. So he said, well, every store has a deep fryer for fried chicken, and all the restaurants have deep fryers for French fries and all that fun stuff. He said, if we take that liquid and we convert a vehicle, we can run that vehicle off used fryer. Like, okay, great, no news to me. That's something that's pretty common out there in the world. So I said, okay, well, we have to identify the right vehicle. So we went through the process, and they identified originally that one of our catering vehicles from our Milltown store would be the vehicle that they were going to do. So when we went and met with the person who does the conversions, which is Full Circle Fuels up in Oberlin, he said, well, that's not going to work. And so he went through the whole process saying, well, you want something that's going to be running a good bit so you can burn through more fuel, because if you're doing short stop and go, the engine doesn't get hot enough to burn the fuel. Basically what happens is that when I get in my car in the morning, especially on a day when it's really cold outside, I don't turn it on to the used fryer oil until I get to the normal operating temperature of the vehicle. So in the summertime, it doesn't take very long. But in the wintertime, it takes much longer. So the average of how much we use it varies during the seasons. So once the vehicle reaches the right temperature, I push a button, and it switches over to run off the used fryer oil. You can't tell the difference. There's no hesitation. I've tried it from a dead stop, accelerating. I tried going up a hill. I tried all of it. You can't tell the difference. It's just instantaneous. So we saw this as an opportunity for us, so we went ahead with the program, and I got volunteered to run the vehicle. Since then, we've also added a delivery vehicle. So we have my company car and a semi, and the semi is using about, let me get this right, they're using about 300 gallons a week of used fryer oil to power our semi. In the wintertime, it's a little less, but in the summertime, it's much more. So, but as a company, those are the kinds of things that Buehler's looked at. And then all along, they've always had, the motion sensing lighting. They've never paid to heat water in any of their stores. They recover all the hot air from the compressors and that's what heats the water. So there's a lot of opportunities there. And then lastly, the thing that we looked at was George talked about is the Mountain Hope auction and buying produce from the Mountain Hope auction. We buy 80% of everything that goes through the Mountain Hope auction. Now, the thing that we sort of talked about when we talked about this is doing a sustainable lunch this time of the year. It's hard because there's nothing really available. You can get some meats and that kind of stuff, but as far as vegetables go, because people can't afford to stock things and keep them up for the wintertime, it's just not feasible. And the volume that we pull through there, that 80% of everything that goes through the Amish auction is probably about 25 or 30% of what we sell in the store as produce. It's really not that much. We get more from like Mauer's Farms and Bauman Orchards and that than we get from the auction, because the volume, you got to realize how much a grocery store goes through every day, basically. And you have 13 grocery stores. It's a lot. People don't realize it. What else? Did I miss anything? Really, I'm a resource. There's a lot of different avenues of things that you can go down. Trying to do business with Buehlers, there's a lot of hoops to jump through. We are ODA inspected, so if you're processing food, it has to be from an ODA inspected facility. Otherwise, we can't even do business with you. It's part of our licensing agreement. As far as produce goes, that's not a problem, but the volume needs to be there. Now, there's certainly opportunities with George's store because of its close proximity to Columbus to potentially bring in some stuff that way. And as a company, Buehler's pays its bills, which is very nice for the companies that we do business with. That's just how they do business. You give us the bill, we pay. So that helps because a lot of times I know we had a presentation in one of the meetings that they have up north that are similar to this, and Ohio State was trying to do some of this stuff, and the problem was that they had a 30-day turnaround time for checks. And you can imagine if you're a farmer out there and you're waiting 30 days to get paid. Yeah. Well, they had gotten it down to 30, and even still, it's still a hassle. So, but I don't know. Now's probably time to answer some questions, but I'm sure each of you are going to have more different individual questions. So there's plenty of resources out there. There's definitely plenty of ways to get your products to market. Marketing to chefs is going to be the best way to go about it. There is a new company that was formed in Cleveland called Local Crop, and it's a company that's in business with Cisco, and they go out of the Cisco house in Cleveland and the Cisco house in Columbus, and they're constantly looking for local purveyors and local providers to produce products that can be sold to chefs. Go ahead.
I think you were one of the first stores to really promote the Angus beef.
CAB, yes, absolutely, yep.
Okay, so what's the chances of getting Ohio beef, like
That's the conversation you have to have with CAB. The problem with certified Angus beef is that there's only so many licensees out there that can provide CAB to us. We have to buy from an approved licensed CAB house. Otherwise, we could lose our license. So you would have to go to somebody. I think here in town, I don't know that there's a CAB license here in town. I know it's Blue Ribbon Meats in Cleveland that has the license agreement, and Sherwood is who we buy a lot of stuff through out of Cleveland. They would be the two people that you could talk to, and I think they do some of that stuff, but you got to remember, the volume that we go through, I'm sort of thinking about this, okay, how do I put this into perspective? If I have a store that runs porterhouse and T-bone steaks for a sale, they'll go through 50 cases in a week. So that's 200 heads of cattle in a week. Just one store.
There was no individual farmer that was big enough to do that. What if they
That's the best way. That's the best way to go about it.
But see,
Absolutely.
that Dan the Provost has put together the all high, what is it, beef, and they've been selling to Whole Foods.
Right. And that's a great avenue because they buy a lot of local stuff. Their only dilemma is they want organic.
Well, these are not always, and these beef are not, they don't have the antibiotics, implants they call them. They are antibiotic-free, but they're not organic.
And the biggest opportunity that you have with somebody like Whole Foods as opposed to us is that we sell everyday groceries, so people aren't going to come in here looking for, a lot of high-end stuff. That expense of something that's been raised with care, with no antibiotics and all that stuff, that costs money. And so if you think about it this way, you bring it to us at a wholesale price, but we have to add our markup to it. So then once you do that, that puts it way up here. A lot of times we'll have people that come to us and say, we have this great jam, or we have this great jelly, or whatever it is, and then they try and sell it to us for the same price that they charge the farmer's market. Well, it's not going to sell in our store because it's been priced up so much, they'd rather just go to the market.
That's a nice segue to my question. Was what percentage of your products are organic? And in a second, are you seeing more of a demand from your customers for organic wholesale?
I can only speak in my personal opinion. I think organic is way overrated for a couple of reasons. One is that to be organic is one thing, but to be certified organic is another thing. And because every state in the U.S., there's no sort of set guidelines for it. Personally, as a chef and as a consumer, because I do all the grocery shopping in my house, I would look for something that's natural. Because to me, I think that has more bite to it than organic. When you think about the Amish produce, it's not organic, but it's natural. So which is better? Something that's grown in California that was raised in fields that were let sit dormant for 5 years. That before that was a huge production farm. I mean, those chemicals are still in that ground. I'm sorry. So,
but are you seeing the customers asking for it? You would have to say that there are, right?
Yeah, I think because the media and talking about, this is bad for you, that's bad for you, that has prompted a lot of people looking at more organic type foods. They are.
But the dilemma is they don't want to pay for it.
That's where it hurts us a little bit.
As a producer and as a wholesaler or retailer, the cost is going to be it's going to be the impediment. It really is.
I go direct to the farm. That's the only way I can afford.
Especially in this economy. I mean, it's going to be tough to bring out anything that's going to be above, even if it's healthier. I mean, that's the thing that they've seen is that the trend 3 years ago was organic, but now people are looking more local, and that's great for us. Okay.
You were talking about the difficulty in sourcing for a local meal at this time of year. There's been some talk in different places in Ohio about flash freezing facilities. Is that something that you would look at closely if it were available? Produced in Ohio, frozen, flash freezing so that you could sell it other times of the year.
If the volume was there, we'd look at anything. That's always the dilemma is the volume. Now, if you got a bunch of farmers together and you did that, absolutely, you definitely would have some success. Because there's really, you think about it, between Buehler's, Heinen's, Fisher's, Riesbeck's, I mean, there's enough companies out there, Whole Foods, that would buy something like that. It's just a matter of getting it together, getting good packaging, and getting the word out there. What happens is that the customer dictates. I mean, I could sit up here and tell you 50,000 different things about my personal preference, but if you can get the customers who want it, they're going to come to the store looking for it. George will tell you, every day he gets somebody comes to him and says, why don't you carry this? Why don't you carry this? Why don't you carry this? So if enough people come to him and say, hey, why don't you carry this? Guess what? We're going to carry it.
When you buy local or the Mount Hope, is there any standards for how their food is produced? I mean, is there,
Nope.
so it could be,
But we know,
throwing crap on the field,
no,
and it doesn't matter.
we buy from the same growers. We know our produce buyer, Dave Graff, goes to the Amish auction. He knows who he's buying from. He knows how the stuff is raised. One of our biggest efforts is that we actually go to all of our different purveyors. We go to Park Farms. We go to the auction. We go to the farms. We go to Mowers. We go to Bauman Orchards, and we see how they handle their products. And we also know by how it's delivered. When it comes on the truck, you can tell by the truck how they take care of their business. They bring it in a rickety old truck that's not refrigerated. They're not taking care of the products. They're just not. So as far as the auction goes, you still get to see how it's delivered, because if you've never been there, they bring it in on the wagon. I mean, it comes on a wagon. So you see how it's harvested based on how it's in the containers that they bring. And they cut everything open. If there's a bin of melons or whatever, he cuts it open and they sample one of every lot that they purchase.
You don't know what chemicals or lack thereof they're putting on the food?
No, we don't.
Don't
No.
know that, okay.
No, we don't. We make assumptions based on our experience with those farmers.
This is so
Sure.
fascinating. I'm hopeful that you're going to be around
Yeah,
for a
I'll be
little
here.
while to
Yeah.
answer some questions that people have, because we do want to respect everybody's time and have 4 speakers coming up. But anything else you want to tell us about what we just ate?
Oh, yeah. When they approached me and tried to do a local dinner, I said, well, one of the things that we do is we have our own central processing facility where we make all of our soups, all of our sauces, a lot of our wet salads, and a lot of the products we sell in our deli. So the chicken is marinated. Park Farms chicken, it's marinated in our central kitchen. The bread dressing is made in our central kitchen. The gravy is made in our central kitchen. And the vegetables they put together here. And we also make the chocolate mousse in our central kitchen as well. So
Thank
that's
you.
about as all I can do.